Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore, we make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with something that was published, just say something about it, and don't be a Richard. What's up, What Makes Us Fire Family? It's Josh, your host. Today on the episode, we have Virginia. Virginia is a fellow firefighter in the career department that I work with, and her story has a lot of hardship that she came through. She pushed herself through that hardship, and how she did it, and the story she has overcoming mental health, afflictions of life in general, the affliction of being a female within the fire service, how she overcame all these obstacles and how she continues to do it is inspiring. You guys sit back, relax, listen to this story. And any female firefighters out there, take note. She's someone that all her firefighter brothers and sisters look up to. She is a shining example of what a firefighter should strive to be. What Makes Us Fire Family? Please welcome Miss Virginia Kelly.
Ready as I'll ever be. Let's do this.
No second thoughts?
No.
Okay. All right. Virginia, thank you very much for coming on to What Makes Us Fire podcast. We work together, and you were somebody whose name, your name preceded you. Take that for what you will.
I had a few friends that I'd spent some time volunteering with. They taught me quite a bit. One of these days, I hope I actually get to work on the same crew with them.
Yeah, they were the ones that mentioned you, and kind of, they definitely put expectation attached to your name before you even came to the department.
Yeah, there was a little bit of pressure there to, hey, don't screw up. They're talking you up, don't screw up. So there's a little pressure, but it's been all right. It's been all right. Thanks for having me on your podcast, by the way. I'm really excited for you. I'm glad to be on it. But.
Well, I appreciate you helping me out. I know it's uncomfortable getting in front of a mic sometimes. And if you heard any of the previous podcasts, you know, sometimes it gets a little deep, sharing a little stuff. So I appreciate you even being willing to do that. Not a lot of people can. But what I want to do is I want to start basically by introducing you, by you telling us a little bit of where you came from, where you grew up, and then how you got into becoming an EMT firefighter. Were you always raised here? Were you born, raised here in Texas, or?
I came from Northwest Houston, just right outside the loop. I was just born and raised there. I went to Waltrip High School, and I was a football trainer. I was a football trainer there, and I really just loved taking care of folks. And as far as like life and a career, I never had any goals. I really didn't have any goals or ideas what to do with that. So that's how it started, was taking care of the football players.
So you knew when in high school, it sounds like you knew then that's a realm of where you wanted to go with a career, or was it just something you liked to do and then found out you could go in that direction later on?
Well, the truth was I wanted to play football.
That doesn't surprise me at all. That does not surprise me at all. Why didn't you?
Well, my parents wouldn't sign off on it, and in retrospect, I'm glad that they didn't. They were pretty protective of me. They wouldn't sign off on it because I was this little tiny thing. There's like these 7-foot tall football players that probably would have mopped the decks with me.
Yeah, but you hear about female football players all the time.
Well, and like you hear, I was really excited that I think that was one of the NHL teams that picked up a female kicker, or it might have been the XFL. They picked up a female kicker. There's some college female kickers, but that's still kind of uncharted territory.
It is. It is. But I see the acceptance of it happening more and more, especially nowadays with all the social issues and women wanting to try to do these things. A lot more companies, schools are branching out into that aspect and allowing, and it sucks that you have to say allowing, but they are allowing females to participate in what is usually is male dominated sports or careers in that, for that matter. I mean, wanting to play football in high school, we had a female play in high school and she was fearless, absolutely fearless.
It was not necessarily the perspective of the concept of not being able to do it, that I'm grateful that my parents didn't allow me to. It was I was tremendously uncoordinated and ungifted in athletics. It's just something I wanted to do to personally challenge myself. They didn't allow for it, but they did support me participating in training, being a football trainer. They pushed me to do that, and it turned out I was good at it. I was really good at it. So
When did you figure out that that was something you wanted to do?
probably when I started, well, whenever I was trying to find something to keep me occupied in high school, when I didn't really fit into anything else. I didn't really fit into any of the drama club or the band or cheerleading. Nothing else sort of fit. Nothing else made me happy or stimulated me. So I gave that a shot. I really loved it.
Did somebody ask you to come do it, or was it just something that was open and then you just went and tried it? And
I, I just was all my I had two brothers. All my friends were football players and jocks. And I was like, I saw the need for it. They had one trainer that I was watching. I was like, how do you get to do that? How can you do that? I want to do that. He definitely looks like he needs help. Let me do that. I said, yeah, come on.
that's cool. So you saw a need and you went for it. And of course, having the brothers and friends that were football players, it was almost an easy fit.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Did treating them, like their injuries, their broken bones, their sprained ankles, their dehydration, whatever, did treating them, did any of that at any point turn you off from what would be technically considered medical side of things?
Oh no, not at all. It got me excited. I wanted to do that professionally for a while.
How would you say, how what road were you thinking professionally? Like nurse, doctor?
I wanted to go into sports medicine, kinesiology. I started at U of H. As soon as I graduated, I started at U of H, kind of wanting to go down that that route, but it was tricky because I was seriously ADD. Like sitting in a classroom of 500 people at U of H,
Mm-hmm.
main campus, trying to learn. That was difficult for me. I couldn't sit still. I was bouncing, and I was failing.
I know exactly how you feel because I found out I have ADD. So I know exactly how you feel.
I think about 90% of us do in this job. So
Well, it was funny because I have psychologists, a therapist I talk to, and they noticed that a lot of people in the civil service realm, military, a lot of them have ADD, like a lot. And they think it's because of the constant stimulus or that unknown stimulus and that adrenaline dump that you get. Even like you hear the bells go off or the tones go off and you get that little bit of adrenaline, even if before you know what the call is, that people with ADD like thrive on that.
yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I so a couple of years ago, my son, he was struggling in school to pay attention, and I took it a little personal when his teacher cornered me about it several times. They're not allowed to say, hey, look, your kid needs to be on meds, but we'd have these teacher conferences on the regular where she's like, hey, so he's making siren noises and he's barking under his desk and he can't sit still in his chair. Maybe we ought to explore, why. And I'm like, I'm not going to treat that like it's a disease because I thought, there's something wrong with me when I was a kid. There's nothing wrong with us. We have a purpose. There's a purpose for people that can't sit still.
Yep.
That can't focus on one thing. They can spread their focus out to be able to hyper focus on 6 or 7 things at the same time. There's a reason that we exist, and just finding out what that was exciting, was fun. It wasn't to sit in a classroom full and work on this degree towards kinesiology. That would have been great, but that's not what I don't think I was designed for, and I don't think that was what you were designed for. We fit perfectly into this little jigsaw puzzle that is EMS and fire. Our brains can't sit still. We can focus on the patient, the scenario, the hazards around us, the potential, the things that could happen. We can focus on 20 things at once. Our brains can bounce. They're free to bounce. So I think that's not something that needs to be fixed. It needs to be adapted. We need to learn how to adapt to different scenarios with that mindset.
Right. Well, honestly, I'm no doctor, but I don't think ADD can be fixed. It can be managed and manipulated to do like what you said, where we can learn when to use how our brains fire in a purposeful way. But I agree with you. I don't think there's quote unquote fixing it. We need to learn to use it. We just have to find that thing that we can use it on be productive. Productive? That's not a word. Productive. I'm making new words now. So you're in school for sports medicine. When did you realize, all right, this isn't for me, I got to do something else?
Well, I was actually dropped out of school briefly to take care of my grandma, who was dying of cancer at the time.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, yeah, she went far too young, but she found out she had lung and liver cancer, metastasized her brain, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm like, I can't let her end her life in a nursing home. So I dropped out of school and moved in with her and took care of her till her last days. And then I went to go sign back up. They're like, okay, well, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? She's gone. What are you going to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to go.
Who was saying that?
My family, my friends, they were asking me what's next. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll go sign back up for U of H and continue on. But it just didn't feel right. So something was holding me back. And I was driving, I can't remember exactly where I was. I was on I-10 and 610 in Houston. And I drove past HFD ambulance. And I'm like, I wonder how you're able to do that. I wonder what the steps are to do that. I was like, that seems like a pretty cool job.
How old are you when you had this little epiphany?
Oh, I was 19.
19 when you saw the HFD ambulance?
Yes, I was 19. So I see this ambulance, and I went and I signed up for classes the same day for EMT classes.
The same day?
The same day. I was like, okay, let's do this. I had talked about being a fireman at some point. I used to debate with this boy in high school I'm still friends with. Hi, Scott. We used to go back and forth in class about whether or not women should be firemen.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to tell me, no, they won't be able to drag me out. I want somebody that will physically be able to drag me out of my burning house. And we'd go back and forth. So the idea was in my head, fire EMS, to do that job. That wasn't the very first thought of it, but that moment was when I was like, you know what, I really can do this. Let's do this.
And so you signed up for the classes. Tell me about your first day.
First day was pretty interesting. Like, we were all just kind of dumbfounded. I don't think, but about a handful of us made it through the class. We started doing the training, and people realized, oh God, this is it's either great or this is terrible. And most of the folks ended up not making it through, but my instructor was pretty awesome. was this medic, this old salty medic that had a seizure disorder, and he walks in and he's like, "So, this is my name. I might have a seizure in the middle of class. I know you think you're in EMT school, so you could do something about it." He's like, "But you leave me alone. Just call 911 if I have a seizure, and just stay out of my way. Don't try to stick a spoon in my mouth. Don't try to do anything else. You don't know what you're doing." He's like, "But by the end of this class, if you have paid attention, you will know how to take care of me." So
That's one way to enter a classroom.
yeah, it was.
Hey, by the way,
By the way,
I might just fall flat on my face shaking. Don't touch me.
yes. So
So you go through, you started with EMS. So you kind of went the route I went. I started with EMS first and not fire. And I got my basic, and then I went off to California thinking I'll be able to become a firefighter out there and everything. And I didn't. I came back, did my intermediate when they had intermediate then. And right after my intermediate, I went into fire. When did you go into fire?
that's a that's a long story. It's kind of a I had been in EMS for I want to say 10, 11 years, and got extremely comfortable with it.
When did you get your paramedic? Okay, so everybody out there that's listening, they're back 11, 12 years ago. There was 3 tiers to EMS. You had your EMS basic, your intermediate, and then your paramedic. Well, they got away with intermediate is what I'm understanding now. And now it's just your basic. And then if you want to become a paramedic, you go straight into paramedic. They took out that middle part. Really, the lack of intermediate and paramedic at that point was just cardiac. So they're like,
Yeah.
why give them all this training when all they got to learn is cardiac? Let's go ahead and just go with paramedic is what I'm thinking what happened. I don't know. I don't make the classes or the state laws or anything. Do you know? I don't.
I'm not sure why exactly they restructured it, but maybe perhaps it was for out of a necessity of paramedics. I know there was a kind of a shortage here.
Yeah, and actually there still is. There still is quite a bit of a shortage nationwide. There's quite a bit of shortage. We know it from the department we work at that we're still short, and it seems like there's not enough. So you get your paramedic. How old were you when you got your paramedic?
I was 20.
So you saw the ambulance at 19, got your paramedic 20. So it took you a year and a half.
I went straight through. I did basic. I want to say it was in the fall. I had just turned 19. I did my basic in the fall, and I went straight through. I did the summer. I did the Christmas, the spring, the Christmas classes, the minis. I did spring classes. I did summer classes. I just powered straight through it. I didn't wait. I didn't slow down and wait, be an intermediate or a basic for any period of time. I just went straight through.
What did your family think when you started doing that stuff?
Yeah, my mom kind of panicked a little bit, but she's like, that fits. She's like, that fits. I think she got comfortable with it, and they don't seem like too bothered when I tell them stories or anything anymore. My dad's pretty proud of me. Like he's like, "You're my favorite son." I'm like, "It's really awkward, Dad, because we got, especially at Thanksgiving, I got 2 brothers."
You're my favorite son.
My dad's got a sense of humor.
How do you take that? I'm gonna kind of bunny trail here. How do you take something like that, being in a field that at least back then was definitely way more male dominated? I think EMS is a little bit more even now.
Oh, wait.
Fire is still lopsided, but I think EMS is more even now. So back then it was definitely more male dominated. So when people back then, when they told you stuff like that, like how did that make you feel? Like,
I just thought it was funny. I thought it was, it didn't bother me in the slightest bit. I just thought it was funny. My dad he spent my entire life trying to keep me ladylike and fragile. He didn't want to take me hunting when I was a kid. And he always told me, he told my mom he didn't want me to be rough and tumble. He wanted to keep me delicate and see how well that worked out for him.
It didn't work out
It
well at
didn't
all for
work
him.
out.
He failed on that aspect. No offense, sir, if you're listening, that aspect, nah, it doesn't work when you have a strong-willed woman as a daughter.
Yeah. He's super supportive of it now. He always wears my station shirts and seems pretty proud of it.
This doesn't bother you, does it?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
So you're going through this. You work as a paramedic for 11 years, and then you're getting into how fire kind of came in. So you got it at 11 years. So you're 30, 31 when you get into fire?
Yes.
That's in our line of work, that's a little bit late.
That's old. Yeah, I was late in the ball game. I spent a lot of time just thinking about doing the job, but I never really had a belief in that I could do it. I physically, I wasn't super fit. I started doing CrossFit right around that time.
Oh, you're one of those.
I'm one of those losers. But
you want to know how when somebody walks into the bar if they do CrossFit?
They'll tell you all about it.
Because they'll tell you all about it.
Well, okay, CrossFit is...
Oh, here we go.
Let me tell you about it.
Oh, my God.
Let me tell you about it. So, no, it's amazing. And the fact that there was a million things that I already had, I didn't realize I had fixed in my brain that I was physically incapable of.
Mm-hmm.
And like slowly, one by one, I was knocking all of those things down. I was like, I don't think I could climb a rope. I don't think I can deadlift 400 pounds. I don't think I can drag a hose down the street. I don't think I can do any of that. So I don't have any business being a firefighter. One by one, I just started knocking down this wall that I put in my brain that I didn't really realize I had built up.
And CrossFit helped you do that.
It did.
And I'm knocking on CrossFit and stuff, but in all honesty, anybody that does anything to better themselves, whether it's annoying to hear about all the time or not, it's actually, those are good things. Those are good things. So I'm knocking on it, but I'm not knocking on it. The fact that of what it is a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that it can help you grow not only physically, but mentally, that's a huge thing. And you being aware that it's helping you do both is even bigger. Because a lot of people just go, oh, great, I'm seeing results. But they don't realize that they made a huge change in their mindset as well. But the fact that you were aware of that, that's huge.
Yeah, I was pretty excited. Every single goal, every single thing that I did that I always just thought, no, I'm never going to do that. It was exciting. So I didn't realize I had that block in my brain. EMS had definitely become my comfort zone. I can do this. There's not really any challenge to it for me. Well, I started getting understimulated by it. The only thing that ever seemed to affect me was horrible calls. Like it wasn't in a good way. I was only ever stimulated by that job by horrible calls, and it was a very negative way.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to do something else. I was like, I need to do something else to feel fulfilled in life. And so me and my husband at the time opened up a business. I stepped away from EMS briefly.
Mm-hmm.
I went part-time at my department, opened up a bar, like a coffee and wine bar. And
I did not know that.
Yeah, for about a year, I was only part-time EMS. I was trying to find something to fill like a void that I felt. And yeah, we opened up this little coffee and wine bar, and it was awesome. It was a cool little spot, but we just weren't financially prepared for the ramifications of the pitfalls that a small business can face. My heart goes out to every single business, like small business that's struggling right now because of COVID.
Oh my God, yeah. That's
like,
crazy.
You don't know what's going to hit you. There's so many small businesses that are just having to close up shop right now, and they're putting like their entire lives and souls were put into these businesses. They're having to shut down, because there's not customers, and that breaks my heart because I know exactly how that feels. My business started failing And immediately after we opened, my marriage started failing. It was actually as we were opening, my marriage started failing. And so all of the strain of that, the strain of that sucked all the creative juices out of me, sucked all the enthusiasm and the creativity out of me, and the will to keep pushing. And that definitely had an impact on the business.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just started, as soon as it opened, it started spiraling. We tried to keep it afloat. Things came across that we couldn't control, like the city shut down the road in front of the business. We were completely unaware that that was going to happen, and that made it struggle. So it was about 2014 where I stepped away from the business, and I ended up divorced. And I was in a super deep, dark hole, and I was in bad shape. I was trying to raise my kid, trying to deal with the business that I was still attached to, even though I had sold my portions of it. And deal with being a single mom. I put my entire retirement up until that point into that business.
Oh, wow.
I had nothing but my home. I had nothing but my home, and I couldn't even make the mortgage payment. I was in.
You were still working part-time after all this too, huh?
Yeah, fortunately, I put my tail between my legs and my head down, and I went and asked for my job back.
Your
And
full-time
yes,
part. Okay.
when I was part time there, they gave me. I was fortunate. My boss at the time gave me my job back. So I went back to work unenthusiastically, but happy that I could pay my bills and keep medical insurance for my child. But I was still unfulfilled,
Right.
and I was in rough shape. I'd go to work every day, but I was just in a dark hole. I'd go and shut myself into the training room and just listen to music and try to like do jigsaw puzzles or something to keep my mind off of the fact that my life had just fell apart. And I had a friend who was trying to keep me upright. It told me you can't seem to you can't control anything in your life right now. There's nothing that you can control, and that's what's really dragging you down. They're like, but what you can control, you can't control your own happiness right now, but what you can control is maybe somebody else's happiness. They're like, if you're in this hole, try to help somebody else out of their hole. You can't help yourself out of your hole, try to help somebody else out of their hole. So I took that as, I need to go out and help somebody else. So I started volunteering at the local fire department.
What year was this? 2014 still?
2014. That was at the end of 2014, like the beginning of 2015.
So this friend convinces you that helping somebody else could possibly help you. Did he give that hint, or she? I'm sorry, I don't know if it was he or she.
Yeah. Like when you feel like you can't control what's going on around you, just the best thing to do is just try to help somebody else. Try to focus your energy on helping somebody else if you can't help yourself. So that saved me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that concept saved me.
Did she get your foot in the door with that volunteer department?
No, but my friends that I knew there, I'd been working in correlation with that department for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with them on calls, and they knew me, and I had a couple of folks that vouched for me. They say, hey, look, she can do this. She could do this. So I got in the door there, and I couldn't respond as often as I like to, but that was a much better way of spending my days than being self-destructive and drinking and wallowing in self-pity.
Could I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
When all this did start happening, did you do any kind of destructive?
Oh yeah. I went down all the traditional routes. Unhealthy relationships with people, with guys, and alcohol was probably the worst one. On my lowest day, I remember like I couldn't pay my house note, but I could, I bought like a $6 bottle of wine or something. I lost my truck. I had a truck, a really nice truck, but I couldn't afford the note on it, so I downsized to like this little crappy car. And like I'm driving home my little crappy car, and I buy a little crappy bottle of wine, and I get out of my house and open up my back door, and my little crappy bottle of wine falls out on the ground on the pavement, and I just like lost it. I'm like that's the only thing I had to look forward to today.
Do you think that was kind of like the epitome of knowing rock bottom?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's that just my entire day just fell apart right there.
Did your EMS company that you were working with, did they have anything to help with you talking to somebody? You know how our department now has an EAP?
Yeah,
They have routes and stuff like that. Were you aware of anything like that with the company you were working for?
I have an EAP, but it's like a lot of it's like a lot of EAPs. They'll direct you to routes to take care of, to help you heal, but it's very impersonal. It's, hey, make you can make an appointment with any of these clinics. And the crazy thing is, I found out just how bad our mental health system is in America whenever I started spiraling myself. It's not necessarily until you become a patient and you have to figure out how to navigate this that you actually realize how bad things are. I When I was suicidal at one point, I tried to make an appointment
Mm-hmm.
with a shrink, and they're like, okay, well, even though you got great insurance, we're booked up for 3 months. I'm like, you're the only game in town. Like and I even called several in Houston, and it was 2 or 3 months away. And I'm like, I'm suicidal now.
Right.
I'm not gonna make it to 2 or 3 months. And just as well as I do, you go to the emergency room and tell them that you want to kill yourself, and they'll be like, stop being a little bitch, and you're not dying. You're not dying. So get out of our space, because there's people that are dying. So what do you do at that point?
Yeah, our mental health system, I think now, and especially in our line of work, is getting better. But back then, yeah, no. I mean, good luck. Good luck. And then having the stigma of even talking about it,
Oh yeah.
especially with your peers. Like back then, it was you didn't talk about it. You did not mention what was bothering you, either about the job. You definitely didn't bring your home life to the job. Don't do that. God's sakes, don't do that. Leave it at the door. What I don't think people realize is that one, it's easier said than done. And two, what happens outside the job makes us who we are. And who we are is part of our work life. So to say leave it at the door is, I think, you're dismissing somebody's emotional state or problems they're going through, and you're expecting them to perform at 110%, just like if nothing was bad was going on. And it doesn't work that way. Mental health doesn't work that way. You can't do it.
You're absolutely right. I think we're pretty fortunate where we're at. You still hear echoes of that sentiment.
There is some echoes of it, and I think it comes from a lot of the old hats.
Yeah.
There are, and of course, there are some the machismo or machisma people out there too that are, well, it's not anybody else's business. I can handle it myself, and that's great if that works for you, and you're healthy and you're safe and you're not destructive. If that's what works for you, great. But if that's a front, you need to work on it. You need, because that is not healthy. If it's just a front, if it's just something you're telling yourself because you don't want the ridicule or what you perceive ridicule would be. And I'm relating with you a lot. Now, I don't have your experience. I haven't been through a divorce. I haven't been through a failing business. I have been financially to the point where it was almost, fuck, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my family? But that goes to the point that we all have different stresses and how we deal with them. I have been to the point where I was where you were at. And it was fairly recently. And we are lucky in where we're at now, because being with a union, for one, they have the Center of Excellence. Our EAP is actually pretty good. Granted, you have to make the steps. You have to take the steps. So that first call is very impersonal. It's very impersonal when you first call. But those aren't the people that are helping you. They're the middleman between you and the person that is going to help you.
Right.
So the EAP actually worked for me in my marriage. Melinda and I almost didn't make it. And which is funny because everybody, I mean, you go on Facebook and you see a million comments about how I love y'all's relationship. Man, you guys are so cool. You know,
It's that iceberg.
yeah, I was just like, you're seeing the product of us working on it. It took a lot of work to get to where we're at now, and we're still working on it. We still have some issues and stuff, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. But we took the steps. You have to be willing to take the steps. Your friend coming into your life and having her eyes open enough to see that you needed something, we also need those people in our lives too. It's very rare that you have those people in your lives that see through what you're fronting and being able to point you in a direction or at least give you some type of advice.
I agree with you completely.
And you took the advice of your friend. I don't know if this was before or after you tried to get help. Was it after?
It was probably at the point where help had failed, where I needed help and I reached out and it was just nothing but brick walls I was facing.
And when you're in that state of mind, you don't want to even try to break through them or climb over them.
Oh yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to, I mean, you're already in a depressed state of mind. Why would I even, at that point, you want something easy. You want something to just work out. But when a brick wall comes up, it's like, well, now it's not working out. And it just makes it harder. You get deeper in. It's a cycle. It fucking sucks.
Well, the best part of it, there's like always a silver lining into it, and I think that our silver lining, I don't know about you specifically, but mine was that I could empathize a bit more with those patients that we help. I can relate to that a bit more, and I feel like I'm now capable of guiding them somewhat. You know, before we, you know, our mental health chapter in our textbook was like 2 pages.
Yeah, no, it was very small. I remember the mental health chapter was it can cause panic attacks, which was actually even part of the whole seizures, the kind of seizures you can have, you know, a panic induced seizure. And that was pretty much it when it
Yeah,
came to the whole mental health aspect.
it was ridiculous. I felt completely unprepared to help people with mental health when I started this, but it was only after I've been through the process that I kind of feel like I can help people now.
Mm-hmm.
I can see, I can relate. You know, we've had people that they weren't able to tell us what's wrong with them. They call us, but they have that look in their face, that look that you've seen in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, what's pull them aside. What's happening in your life right now? You know, what's going on? Let me help you. Tell me what's going on, and maybe I can help you. So that's been awesome, just to see their eyes light up, like, you know,
Oh, they're seeing something I thought I can hide.
yeah, or that they just didn't think we would take seriously. So that's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, it is when somebody can actually recognize that you do need help because it's hard to admit it to yourself. And then it's even harder to actually ask for the help sometimes. So when you have somebody in your life that's able to see that and point you in a direction that it helps us, people that go through that a lot. So anybody out there with friends or family and you think they might be going through something or you see something in them, say something, bring it up, get them talking about it.
Well, not to change gears or anything, but I really didn't know you when I came into the department. I still think we're getting to know each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely getting to know each other still.
But one of the reasons, like, I reached out right away to you, like, I think you were moving when I first met you, and I was like, I want to be friends with these people, like you and your wife, was because I saw, like, we were already friends on Facebook. I saw every holiday that came around that you would post, like, hey, look, my house is open. If you have no place to go, like, come out, you know, we'll feed you. Hang out with people. And I thought that was amazing. I was like, I want to be
Thank
friends.
you.
I want to be friends with these people. So that's why I hit you up and I was like, man, I'm going to help you move.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that because a week later, I had to move everything back in.
Oh man, I wish you would have called me.
That was,
I
I
would have
didn't,
helped you moved everything right back.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And that was part of the time where it got really bad. It was such a stressful time. I couldn't help the people that helped me move out to be like, hey, 3 weeks later, let me move everything.
Nobody would. I guarantee you, nobody that helped you would have judged. So.
And I know that now talking to him, but at the time, oh man, I couldn't do it. It was something in me. But anyway, you get, we're going to go back to the fire. We did sidebar there, and that's something we do need to talk about, and we can get more into it, but I want to get a little bit more, let's dive a little bit more into the background. Let's get you to the point where you get on to the paid department you're on with now. You start the volunteering, you're not responding to as much calls, but it's an outlet that helps you process and be more alive, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Oh no, that's a perfect term. I felt dead for quite some time, and no, I felt like a new breath of air in me. And whenever I started the fireside, and I had some awesome mentors, a lot of which I work with now, and that I've learned so much from. And it's not just about the job itself. It was about the culture too. I loved every aspect of the culture. Like my family fell apart, but you know what? There's a family of firemen right here that were there for me every hiccup, every dark day I had. I know I could like call them. That's the beautiful thing about the fire service is it's another family. Honestly, it's like you have your family at home and they're everything, but you have a family when you go to work too.
Did you find that family aspect different from the volunteer to career? And we will get to the point of when you got hired onto the career. Did you find that family aspect a little bit different?
From volunteer to career?
Yeah.
Well, most of the guys that I volunteered with, the beautiful thing about them were they were career in some aspects. They were either municipal or industrial firefighters already.
Mm-hmm.
So that culture kind of bleeds over, and so it blended seamlessly from volunteer to paid. That culture existed across the board.
Yeah, for me, it didn't happen that way. There was maybe one or two paid and the volunteer that I started with, paid firefighters, career firefighters. There was a family aspect there, but it wasn't like career at all. It was close, but it wasn't as close as career.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you're really lucky in that a lot of the guys that you worked with in the volunteer side were and had the mentality of career fire, because I personally think there is a difference, because volunteer, you only get to see each other on the calls, really.
Yeah.
And in career, you're living with them a third of the year, 4 months out of the year, at 24 hours a time, you're living with these people. You're hearing them fart, sneeze, you hear about their kids, everything. Everything. You're living with them. They're your brothers and your sisters. But for me, whereas volunteers, unless we had a special event going on, or unless somebody invited you over, you didn't spend a whole lot of time with them. So for me, that's how it was different.
I got you. Yeah, I was really fortunate with my volunteer department. It's a small town, and like we heavily relied on one another. They were the folks I call up if I needed help with something, or they needed help with something. They called me up. So we're fortunate there. It was between a combination between being such a small town and the fact that I'd worked with them and gotten to know so many of them for so long. I worked with them on the EMS side.
Oh, you did?
Yes. So I got to know some of them that way as well. They'd come hang out at the station. I'd start talking to them one at a time. There was a bad attitude about volunteers at the time on the EMS side, but we're working calls with these guys, and they come out in the middle of the night, leave their families, and don't get paid to help us survive these calls. And I'm like, you know what? I took some time and started talking to them and realizing they're amazing people. Or they used to call it, their training nights used to be, the term they would say was mouth breather Mondays. And it was just a really toxic environment on the other side of the hallway. Like they didn't appreciate, there were several people that didn't appreciate them so much. And when you start talking to them, they're amazing people. Like we have some folks from all kinds of backgrounds that are so intelligent that I learned so much from, and just taking the time to try to work past that picture that had been painted for me of them was pretty awesome. So
Did you find out about career through a couple of guys that you were with in the volunteer?
yeah, I'd been exposed to it for quite some time. For since I was in high school, I dated a fireman's son in high school, and I loved seeing the culture then. And it just kind of slowly something that built through my entire life watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot about career from them, like what is it actually going to be like. So yeah, they all taught me. They taught me a lot.
So, is the career fire department you're with now, the one we work at, is that your first career fire department?
That is my second.
Your second. So, how did you get involved in your first?
Well,
When did you decide to make that decision to leave EMS only and do fire EMS?
well, I hadn't been stimulated at my job that I was at for quite some time, and I was FTOing a
Field training officer, by the way.
oh sorry
That's what
guys
that means.
yeah
Mhm.
I was training a EMT, a paramedic at the job I was at, and he tells me, he's like, I asked him how he got into this. I'm like trying to get to know him, and he's like, I just want to be a fireman. I've been told that eventually this department is going to go paid. I just really want to be a fireman. I'm like, man, I hope this department goes, paid. At the time I was hoping it would go paid, but I was like, if you want to be a fireman, you need to get out of here. This is going to be a medic job for a while. It's just been my experience.
Mhm.
And one of my friends had just left the same department to go be a fireman elsewhere. And I'm like, I heard this is a really good gig, so why don't you go try it out? So he left my FTO. I think when he had just finished his FTO process, he puts in his notice. He's like, hey, I got hired on at this other place. They didn't let me FTO anybody after that. They didn't let me FTO anybody after that. But he's still at that job and he's still happy. But he kept calling me up and said, hey, come over here with us. Come over here with us, And it was 2016 when I left and went over there for 3 years. That was my first career job.
And how long did you work there?
3 years.
I'm sorry, you just said 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
What was the experience like there?
Man, I had the best crew in the world. Like, I fell in love with the job right then, because I had just an amazing group of people, the most diverse group. They like set the bar really high for my expectations of what a crew should be. Like, we do stuff we'll still do stuff together. We all know each other's families. That was the first time I'd ever been anywhere where all the guys, like, they don't go to work and bitch about their wives. They go to work and they talk about how amazing they are. Like, if they talk about them at all, they talk about their kids, how amazing their kids are. Like, that changed my perspective, because I had a really unhealthy attitude about relationships at jobs I had been at before, because we all just sit around and complain about our spouses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't realize just how unhealthy that was until I got into an environment where everybody sat around. If they talked about their spouses, they were saying, hey, they're amazing. And that was a big eye opener for me.
I want to ask you, from volunteer, now we get a lot, and I've noticed there's a lot more females volunteering. I'm going to get into the whole aspect of you being female in the service. When you got hired onto the career, it sounds like you didn't really have that much of an issue, or you didn't hear much of an issue being a female in the department. Did you ever hear anything like that, or get anything like that, or get any what you considered different treatment for being a female?
Not at my first job at all. Like, it was, you hear things. People, we the department, we're really, the job in general, I think we're bad about trash talking. We hear things, but people, for the most part, I had a couple little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, no. They just treated me like any other new hire. They were very respectful and welcoming. So That wasn't a problem.
When when did you decide to leave that department and come to your current department?
They were having some growing problems, and there's problem every single department has problems. Where
Yes.
we're at right now has problems,
Mm-hmm.
but I think you have to find some place that has problems that you can live with for 20 plus years. And I'm old AF for this job, so like I'm like this is where I'm staying. I need to find some place that has problems that I could deal with for 20 to 30 years because I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at 36 now. I am out of the range for civil service.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much anywhere. I don't.
So I wanted to find some place that had problems that I could live with.
Mm-hmm.
And that place just it was had some amazing people, and I'm super grateful for the experience that I had with them. I learned a lot, and I miss my crew over there a lot to this day, but the problems they had I couldn't live with.
The
So
department's problems.
yes. I think that you should always try to water your lawn where you're at. The grass is going to be greener if you just shit on it. The grass isn't going to be greener if you shit on it. You have to water your lawn where you're at. But I felt like the things weren't going to change. So I didn't feel a changing in a momentum there. So even though I appreciated it with them, and I won't badmouth them. I will never badmouth them. But I wish them all well. I had to move on.
When you went through the process to get hired on at your current department, at our department, what were you concerned about getting onto this department?
Oh, I was nervous. We have a polygraph test. I think that was the
What do you have to lie about?
everybody has dirt. I don't care how.
That's true.
I don't care. I heard about the process, what the questions they were going to ask,
Mm-hmm.
but was funny. It was all the horrible things that I brought up about myself. I felt like a horrible person when I walked out of there because, like I said, everybody's got dirt and they ask questions. And I called up my buddy as soon as I walked out. I'm like, "Did you walk out feeling like a complete piece of trash?" They're like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." But the things that I was honest about that I hadn't done, like I've never done drugs in my life,
Mm-hmm.
never.
Not even
There,
marijuana?
no, no. I thought about it while I was on my hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about it while I was on my hiatus from EMS. I was like, you know what? Maybe now's the time. But I'm glad I did it. Glad I did because I was like, I can't lie. I have no poker face at all. So yeah, I hadn't done drugs, but they're like, whenever I did the polygraph test, they're like, hey, look, it's showing indeterminate on your questions about drugs. I'm like, that is the one thing I have I have working for me is I've never done drugs in my life. So they ended up passing me through the process. But
Well, that's good. We're happy to hear about you. And like I said, when you were coming or you were going through the process to come to our department, your name preceded you, right? You were being talked about in the department way before you even actually got hired. You were being talked about when you were going through the process. I never met you before, but I only heard good things about you. She's bang up. She works hard. We only had one other female at the department at that time, and she set the bar really, really high. And we were like, she better be just as good. She better be at least half as good as what we're hearing.
yeah,
I think a lot of us in the fire department, and I'm speaking on the male, and I could be totally wrong, and I should be careful how I say this. I'm speaking for myself. However, I think it's a general idea for males in the fire department. We don't care if you're a female. We don't care if if you look like you can't do something, but we all want you to do the job just as good as, if not better than us, because when the shit hits the fan, we have to be able to trust you're going to be able to hold your own and then hold your brother or sister when they need it. So that's always been my thing is I don't care what gender you are. You better be able to do the fucking job. Because if you can't do the job, you don't belong there. That's always been me. I don't care what gender you are. If I can trust that if the shit goes down and we're in a building together, something happens to me, I know you're going to do everything in your power and you're going to be able and willing to do those things that need to get done. It doesn't matter what your background is, who you are, where you come from. None of that matters, because when the shit hits the fan, none of that matters.
That's the sentiment that I am approached with more often than not. So, but it's not always, but that's the sentiment that I'm approached with more often than not, and that's been nice.
And you've noticed that more often than not?
Yeah,
Tell me about the times that are not.
Oh, well, a lot of people have the mentality that we shouldn't be in the job. What's funny is a lot of the people that have the mentality that we shouldn't be in the job are women.
Really?
Yeah. There was a group of firefighters out east, central east somewhere, United States. They posted this article. It was all female crew, officer, the driver, the 2 firemen, all female crew. And I clicked on it. I knew what I was going to see, the comments, but I still opened it just out of morbid curiosity. And what's funny was most of the encouragement what came from males. There's a lot of females that liked it too, but there was a lot of females that were like, I hope they don't show up to my house because they won't be able to get me out, or they won't be able to get my kids out. They were just like, women should not do that job. There was women saying women should not do this job.
I think those women are thinking it purely on a physical aspect. There are women out there that are just as strong as males that can do the job just as well. And women that aren't just as strong as males know the tricks of the trade to make it work.
I think that's more often than not, like, we're just naturally have less muscle mass.
Right.
But
it's not saying, it's not downplaying the gender at all. It's literally scientifically proven males are stronger muscular wise than females. However, this job doesn't just require strength. You have to be able to adapt.
Yeah,
if you can find a way to adapt and do the job just as well as somebody that's doing it with brute force, there's no real difference because you both get the job done, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of females, especially ones that are unaware of what we go through and the training that we do and the little quote unquote tricks of the trade, I don't think they realize that those things are beneficial for women and can help women that don't have the brute strength of somebody that's 6'2", 230 pounds solid muscle, but they can get that same patient out without that 6'2", 230 pound guy of muscle. They can still get them out safely. They can still save them. I mean, it's possible because there's other ways to do the job. And if you're good at doing those things, then there shouldn't be any difference.
Right.
And I think the perception of the job is that you have to be this machismo, you have to be fit. I mean, you do have to be fit to an extent, but really a lot of it is knowing how to do the job. It's not necessarily just brute force all the time.
There's so many facets to this topic. It's unreal. Anybody that walks into this, any female that walks into this job walks in to, whether they want to admit it or not, they walk into a wall of stipulations and complications.
Do you think you have to prove yourself a little bit more because you're a woman?
You do, but a lot of departments, their PATs change, their physical agility tests, they changed over time to be able to have women be able to pass the test.
Do you agree with that?
No, not necessarily. That's a challenge in and of itself, is that, hey, the guys are saying, oh, you should be able to do this job, but you can't pass the test, so we got to change the test for you. I think that you should be able to pass the same test, but there's a lot of men that can't pass those tests either.
There's a lot of men that can't pass the tests just as much as there are women.
So maybe we need to look at the test. The department we work for is looking at the test to see what we're capable of, to see what the standard, should be. But you're kind of setting us up for a challenge immediately when you say, hey, look, we're lowering the standards so that you could get on. The difference, I feel like, I haven't had a lot of bad experience as far as proving myself as a woman, but you do notice they watch you. It's almost, they watch, as soon as you get in the door, they watch to see how if you're going to fail. Like, as opposed to my male counterparts, I feel like they got us under a microscope waiting to see if we're going to fail.
So that would be one of the issues you think being a woman in the fire service might be, is that you're almost put under the microscope.
Yeah, it was actually kind of fun. It was.
But you're different because you enjoy challenges.
I love when somebody tells me I can't do something.
You love proving them wrong.
It's a hobby. It's a hobby. I love for people to tell me I can't do something, and then I try to do it. So
it sounds like, even though it's technically a condescending thing to be scrutinized more so than your male counterparts, it's scrutinizing. Do you think that aspect of being scrutinized and being under that microscope actually enhances your performance and or makes you more willing and possibly better than some of your male counterparts?
I think the concept that I might fail has been a driving factor to do better. So yes, I want to work out every single day. I try to work out every single day. I started going, I know you want to hear about CrossFit. I started going to CrossFit 797 after we all got our butts kicked at an apartment fire a couple months ago, to try to improve my performance and want to be better. We made it, through the fire without, giving up, but I want to do better. It's definitely a driving factor that I know that some people are just watching and waiting to see if I'll fail or if I can't do something. So.
And you think that's a common thing, not just with you, but a common thing for females in the job in general?
I think so.
And I agree with you. I think it is. And to be 110% honest with you, I would be lying if I said I didn't do that to some extent as well. But again, I'm thinking of it on the whole strength aspect of it, because I know females can know the job. I know they can know it. I know they can perform the job. But it's when the hard work comes in and it's something I got to work on. And a lot of people won't admit this, but it's something that I'm like, okay, here's the hard work now. Is she going to be able to keep up? Not just you, but any female in general. Is she going to be able to keep up? Is she going to be able to stand the heat, so to speak? I shouldn't be doing that. I should be doing that with every firefighter on the scene.
Yeah. The truth of the matter is, it is every fireman.
It's every fire person. Every fireman that you are working with on a scene, you better hope they all can keep up on the fucking job. Not just a certain gender or person. It's everybody better be able to keep up. And I'm working on it, and I'm not afraid to admit it to you. It's just my mindset was going to the strength aspect of it. That's it. I know females can do the job. I'm 110% confident females can do the job. But when it comes to the hard work, the manual labor part, yeah, you definitely get put under a microscope.
Yeah, I think I had the benefit of working with a group that really cared about me, that really saw that I wanted to work hard and put hard work into it. So they guided me in directions that helped me. A class that they pushed me towards doing was nozzle forward. Mm-hmm. Have you done that class before?
Yeah, I haven't done the class, but we had some guys that went and did the class and then came and taught us
the concepts
and everything.
It's a 2-day class, and it's amazing. It's hard for a lot of the guys to flow and move a 2-inch line.
A 2-inch line through a smoothbore nozzle. Yeah, that's
so. Like, I went, I think it's Aaron Fields teaches the class, and he pulled me aside at one point. He's like, how do you feel about this? And I'm like, well, he's like, because what I see is some of the, he's like, I know you could do this. Some of the women that take this class kind of struggle a little bit because you are different. He's like, you are capable, but you are different. Your center of gravity is different than a man's.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, so, here are some things that I've seen that work for other women. He shows me where to hold the hose as opposed to what they were teaching for necessarily all the men.
It's funny that you bring that up, because it takes somebody willing to see it that way instead of you should be able to do it like the guys do it. No, because I might do something that a female does, hose handling, right? I know guys are going to make fun of that. I should know how a female handles a hose. I can do that. Anyway, but that technique he showed you that helped other females actually might help another male firefighter too. You know, it's the fact that he was open and willing and not just putting your gender off to the side, but really showing you you can do this, try doing it this way.
Yeah.
That takes a special person to do that. So that instructor, good on him.
Yeah.
That I mean that he should do that for everybody and anybody.
Yeah, I highly recommend taking that class. We had a female at the department we were working for was saying that she was struggling with that same thing. And I'm like, okay, well, here's some things that I do. And also, you should take this class, because it'll help you. I think she signed up. There's a class coming up north somewhere. I think she signed up. I might try to take it again because I think you could take away something different each time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When you're at the department now with the career, do you find it a little bit more? Do you find this realm, our career, our department, different in the way we handle things? How the local is looking at women? I know right now we're going through maternity leave for women, which is something our department never really had to deal with before. And
Right.
it is different. I mean, women go through a different process when they're pregnant. Men don't have to go through that process. They don't grow a human being inside them. Women do. Obviously, something does need to be done. But do you think that maybe something should have been, do you think all departments should have something set up for women on that aspect? Because there are differences, right? Women have their menstrual cycle, women have kids, women, I mean, there's a reason why we're different, right? And whether you believe it's a religious thing or not, there's a reason why men and women are different. We're made to do different things.
Right.
But the job doesn't care about that. The job doesn't care about those different things.
Right.
Right? When it's time to do the job, it doesn't matter if it's that time of the month. It doesn't matter if you don't know you're pregnant just yet and you're not feeling well.
Right.
That those things, the job doesn't care about those things. Do you think that most departments should start thinking about those things?
Oh yeah, because we're coming. There's going to be a lot of females that are going to step. They see other folks. They're like, you know what, I could do this. I'm not trying to get all feministy, but like I was like my heart was filled with warmth. And my old job was working at a structure fire, and we had just knocked down the fire. We were outside, gearing down, and there was a little girl just watching, waving at us. A little girl and her mother. This little girl, as soon as I take my helmet off, because we all look the same.
Right.
We all look the same in our gear. You can't tell if it's a woman or a man.
No, you cannot.
But I took my gear off, and she saw my ponytail, and she's like, "Mama, look, it's a girl," And she's like, "Yeah, you could do that, baby. If you ever want to do that, you could do it. She does it, you could do it." And that made my heart filled, with warmth. And
Well, there is something to say. I mean, I think it's still a general idea. I mean, there's the shows that show all the female firefighters and stuff, and I think they're trying to normalize it, and that part of it's good. But in general, young kids, the general public, they're not grown up to think certain jobs women can do.
it's change. It's the perception is changing slowly, and with it, the departments are changing slowly. We didn't have a lot of females in this department before, but we had one pregnant last year, and she did beautifully. She's an amazingly strong mother that, even though we didn't have a lot established in writing, it's a scary, the uncertainty of pregnancy at all is terrifying in and of itself.
Yeah, on a personal level, yeah, for sure.
But not knowing how your department's going to respond to it is even more terrifying. It's like, okay, how am I going to, if you're not past your rookie year, are you going to lose your job? If you can't perform, how is that? What does that look like? What are the possibilities? And you don't have any female seniors to approach about it. It's that have experienced it. It's tricky. So what our department did is one of the firefighter that you were talking about earlier that was here before me, she established a committee, and right now we're working on trying to have just a SOG, something in writing to say this is what this looks like. And it's not just for us, men, they've been dealing with this for years, fertility treatments and adoptions and having children at all. Nobody, our country is not just our department, is not just the field. Our country doesn't recognize the paternity. They don't recognize paternal leave and the necessity of the father being there. So this kind of that SOG kind of touches on that as well. What a man can expect if he adopts or has a natural child, but it outlines what our job looks like going through the process of pregnancy.
Well, and to defend the fire realm of that is we, again, are a predominantly male career.
Right.
And this is all new.
Yes.
This is all new to the fire service. Maternity leave. Where do we move a female that ended up getting pregnant that was a firefighter on the truck and ambulance? This is all fairly new territory, I think, for a lot of male dominated careers that females are slowly trickling in and seeing themselves doing. It's not a bad thing. It is something that does need to be addressed, because if we are going to have females in the career, there needs to be SOG, standard operating guidelines, when certain things happen. I know this couch isn't
I'm just gonna have to adjust there. You're good.
But those going through those growing pains, and God bless her for dealing it with the way she did and having that uncertainty of, all right, you're going to not be able to work, but you haven't even been here a year, or you don't have enough sick time built up yet. You can have off, but you're not going to get paid. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That's scary.
She did it so gracefully. It was amazing. It was amazing to watch.
And it's even better going because the union was helping her as well. Yeah. The union was like, look, we don't have guidelines for this. We have nothing in our charter, nothing in our contract about this. This is all brand new territory we're dealing with here. And as chaotic as it was for her, I think it can be done, because our department did it. It can be worked through.
Yes.
It wasn't worked through the best way possible. I'm sure there's things that could have been done to make it easier and more smooth, but it was awesome to see the city, the department, the union, and her fellow firefighters all work together to figure it out. It was cool to see that.
That warmed my heart when I first started here. And I saw a number of people doing shift trades and doing whatever they could to make sure that she had that time with her baby after I was born, and time to recover. That was amazing.
Yep, and they did them without expecting any type of payback or anything, which is actually really cool.
That was, you have those moments of uncertainty. Like I started over here. That was a big change for me. I left a department of 3 years, like on the edge of not being able to take another job elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of uncertainty, like, oh crap, did I make the right decision? That was one of those, I made the right decision moments, was watching. I told you the family aspect is so huge. Watching everybody come together and step up for her. I was like, yeah, I made the right decision coming here.
Do you think that her getting pregnant and then seeing that, did that give you more confidence? I don't know if you want more kids or not in your life, or if you're done.
Yeah, I'm going to test drive this policy eventually. I hope at least. Like I'd like to have another child in my life. So a little late in the game once again. I'm unconventional, but yeah, I that gives me confidence in having and what the future looks like with that. Seeing how everybody responded to her, seeing the other firemen step up and work on a policy, to make it smoother. Like, all of this gives me a lot of confidence.
I think it gave everybody a lot of confidence. Of course, you had the people going, God, I can't believe we have to do this, or blah, 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 blah. You always have those shitheads talking crap. And they're still your brothers, they're still your
Yeah.
sisters, they're still going to take care of you. They're just bitching and complaining because they like to bitch and complain.
That's every aspect of the job
Yeah.
though.
Have you noticed through this process, you've been with the department now for 2 years?
It'll be a year next month. It feels like longer, right?
Are you serious? You haven't even finished probation yet?
You know, it still says
Ah, you're still a
I'm
probie.
still a PFT on my helmet. It says
You're.
I'm gonna.
Oh my God. I thought you. It totally feels like you've been there
It
longer.
feels like it's been a long but good year. It's been a long, but it's been a really good year.
But you know what? I think that's actually a good thing that it feels like you've been there longer, because that just means that your name's been put out there in a good light. Because if it was in a bad light, it might have felt like really fast, and
Yeah.
or it could have done something different. It could have been like, holy crap, when are we going to get rid of
Yeah.
her? Because we have had those kind of people in the department before, where it's all you heard was bad. All you heard was bad is when they came on, and you're just like, oh, they've been here long enough. Let's go ahead and just let's cut ties now. But no, yeah, you're definitely somebody within the department that has stepped up to the plate, not just because you're female, but just as a rookie, you've definitely stepped up to the plate. I haven't heard anything bad about you. I haven't heard anything condescending or anything like that. Everything I've heard has been your stand up, stuff like that. Do you think, or what do you think it is that allows that kind of talk about you? And this is, I'm basically giving you a chance to brag about yourself here a little bit. What do you think that you did that allows for that sentiment to be shared with your fellow firefighters?
I think that's 100% due to the people that I grew up in this job with. I had a group of people that they gave me the blueprint to the expectations of walking into a fire department. If I would have walked in with no idea, I'd probably look like a scumbag, because you have there's a roadmap to being a good rookie, and they gave me all those pointers, and I think they did that because they saw that I was going to absorb. I wanted to know, like, hey guys, I want to do this job. Tell me how to succeed in it. And they went through the steps. Don't make sure you're there a half hour early. Make sure the coffee's made. Make sure you're the first person to have your gear on the truck. The flags are up. The station's clean. You're the last person to go to bed at night. Everything, the station's clean. You don't go to bed before the station's clean. There's no dishes in the sink. You know your job. You know everything on that truck. They told me, do that and you'll be fine. If I wouldn't have known, if they hadn't given me all of this advice, like all these awesome guys, I wouldn't know any better. They gave me the recipe on how not to suck.
Yeah. Well, and I think that works for anybody that's coming in. If they do just a little bit of research, or just talk to somebody a little bit before actually starting shift, like getting on shift, taking the time to go to the stations and talk to the guys and finding out, what what's expected of them. I think that helps rookies a lot, tremendously. You were lucky that you had some really, really good people. And I know who you're talking about. And generally, I know two of them very well. Those guys, you couldn't have had better mentors. And they know who they are. So when they hear this, they know that you're saying thank you to them. I trust me, I 100% know that they know you're talking about them.
There's at least 3, if not 4, in the department that for sure helped me grow as a person, as a fireman.
If you can go back, and now I'm going to get into like my little questionnaire section. If you can go back to Virginia right before she decided to start this whole fire service, you're going back, knowing what you know now, what kind of advice would you have given yourself, if at all?
Oh, that's a hard question.
I'm getting that a lot. When I ask that, they're like, wow, that's really hard. Well, it doesn't have to be specific. It can be, or it can be specific. It can be general. I mean, what would you tell Virginia you know, in 19-year-old Virginia, right, 20-year-old Virginia, right when she started all this life, this crazy life, what advice would you have had given her? Or would you just been like, you know what? I dealt with it. You can deal with it.
Something that I'm trying to improve upon right now that I wish I could, I wish I would have started doing when I was 19 was reframing the, my view of my life and everything around me as taking a more positive perspective. All the experiences we have, all the negative experiences are just part of what create the best in us. So instead of taking those as just devastation, which I did a lot of times, I took all these bad experiences as just complete devastation and ruin. Taking those and flipping them, and realize this is something that is going to make me better. And also, just taking those experiences, I have been fortunate enough to take those negative experiences and learn from them and try not to repeat them, try not to treat other people the way that I see that I don't want to be treated. I think that's a culture issue, and fire is, and I've preached this a couple of times, is where we tend to repeat our traumas, project our traumas on other people, like being treated poorly as a rookie. You'll see a lot of folks that will treat their rookies poorly. This is how I was treated, so this is how I'm going to treat you. Instead of taking it and learning with it. I've been fortunate to have somebody knock me upside the head when I was younger and say, "Hey, look, don't, because you got treated like this. Don't do it to somebody else." Another lesson I've learned is taking the time to get to know people instead of just listening to whatever perspective, be it good or bad, that you hear about them when you first start.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the time to get to know people, that has taken me very far. I feel like in life is just displacing whatever information I'm like have like shoved upon me when I first hear of somebody, and taking the time to learn who they actually are. Because some of the best relationships I've developed are people that started off with a negative connotation, like I've heard, she's a bitch or he's an asshole, and they just look like unapproachable, and you like take the time and put in the effort to try to get to know them. It's some of those people that I would have written off otherwise would have been the most amazing, impactful people in my life.
I think that's a huge thing in our culture in fire service in general is that everybody has an opinion on somebody. And when you start working with a crew, and these are the people that are you're supposed to start learning from, especially as a rookie, and they start telling you about other people or their ideas about other people that you may come in contact with or work with in the job, and they've had a bad experience or they don't like them for some reason or whatever, they try to spread that message, especially to the new people because they don't know any better. And it takes somebody that's open minded to hear it, put it in the back of their mind, and be like, okay, I know what they said about this person, but I am going to evaluate this person on my own, and let me figure it out. It takes a strong person to do that, somebody that's well rounded and open minded. I was at fault early on in my career, like you said, where you would listen to the old hats, you would listen to the people that have been there for a while, what they said about somebody or something, and that was it. That was the thought process you were supposed to have. I try to I'll listen to it, but I don't make it gospel. It's not gonna be that when I meet that person or come across that thing that needs to be done, because I've learned human beings are different. This department, the fire service, is so diverse when it comes to gender, age, sexual orientation, religion, everything. So diverse that somebody is going to have an issue with someone no matter what.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter. Just like outside the job, somebody's going to have an issue. But what I have noticed is even if they do have that issue with them, if the shit hit the fan,
They'll help.
they're going to be there to help.
Yeah, that's amazing too.
It's crazy, right? It's like, didn't you say he was a shithead just 2 minutes ago?
And showing up to your house when you need help.
Yeah, and now you're there helping them out because they're in trouble.
Oh yeah, I've ate crow many times on not thinking poorly of somebody, and then that's the guy that shows up
Yeah,
to help me out. I'm like, oh man, I misread you completely. So
it takes an open mind. I think really truly in I'm starting to see the change. It's slow. It's kind of part of the reason why I wanted to do the podcast and why I wanted to do this is because I wanted to show our all of our diversity. I wanted to show that as much of difference we have with each other and as much as we don't agree sometimes, whether you want to admit it or not, you actually do kind of care about them. You don't want them to hurt. You don't want to see your brother or sister, go down a bad path.
oh for sure.
When we got started on all this, we went through the whole you being a female in the department, got a little bit of your background. Where are you at in your mindset now at this point in time in your life and this point in time of your career? Where do you stand? What are you thinking of doing in the future? How are you viewing the department now or viewing the service now?
I'm still really happy with the department. I think we have an amazing union, and I'm really excited for all the strides that the department's making. It's come a long way since I've even talked about it with my friends that started here years and years ago. Yeah, I'm trying to continue to grow. It's been challenging to try to continue to grow myself. Like, okay, so physically I'm 36. I'm trying to want to be able to stay in this job for 20 years at least. So maintaining that's a little stressful. That's a little stressful trying to keep up. But I'm trying to finish up my degree and trying to continue to grow and learn. I'm an infant in the fire side. Like I have so far to to grow to learn. So I'm trying to absorb as much as I can. We're kind of at a standstill right now, I think, with all the COVIDs. So many classes have been canceled and training. So I feel like I've been at a little standstill with that, but my crew's been amazing. Training as often as we can. Still trying to grow with the limited capabilities, but I'm feeling pretty good. I still feel like I made the right decision every day I go to work.
What do you think about the fire service in general? Not just our department, but the fire service in general. Do you think as a whole it's starting to make the right decisions? Do you think that it's not moving fast enough or it's moving at a good pace?
I think it's moving at a great pace. We have adapted. We have, our fires have gone. There's not very many fires anymore. They've gone way down, but we have adapted. Emergencies are on the rise, but they're changing. The dynamic of the necessity for us is changing, and I think the service as a whole has done beautifully to adapt to meet those needs.
How do you think it's changing and adapting to having more and more females as firefighters?
I think it's doing fantastic. I think that, like I said, I've gotten a warm reception for the most part, and where there's not been met a warm reception, there's usually somebody there to say, "Hey, hold up." So I don't even see that as an issue. Any females I've seen that haven't succeeded in this it wasn't because they were females. It was because they were just incapable of the job, the same as the guys. And that's okay. We're not all built for this. We're not all built for this mentally or physically.
It's funny how you brought up the whole mentally and physically thing because it is also proven scientifically. I don't have the notes right in front of me that women and men think differently. We have a lot of same ideas, and we know generally, morality is about the same, and you know, but when problems come into picture, men and females tend to look at things a little differently. They can see the same problem, but have two totally different ways of looking at it. Have you found that to be maybe clashing? I know you're kind of a rookie now, so you can't really voice what you're thinking on how to solve a situation right off the bat. But in your previous department, when you had a little bit more of a voice and a little bit more of a say so, do you find that they're more willing to listen to you and your idea of how to mitigate certain situations or ideas on whatever, have you found that to be an issue at all?
Not at all. Not at all. I feel like it's not necessarily gender as it is personal experience. As somebody was telling me a while back about there was a book written by like a Navy SEAL or something along that lines where they were talking about human experience, how little credit we give to and understanding we try to implore on every single individual in the fire in life, not even just the fire department, in life. Like we take for granted the experience, the personal, every personal experiences that we've ever had. We look at children and we tend to treat them like little adults, but we take for granted the fact that they haven't had all the same experiences we've had. Emotionally, physically, they haven't had them, so we can't look at them like little adults. We have to look at us as big kids. And I think that's more of an issue than male versus female. It's experience level. It's I don't know what my partner has experienced, so, and they don't know what I've experienced. So we approach a scene, and they want to approach it completely differently because they've already seen this or that,
Mm-hmm.
and I might approach it differently because I've seen something differently, or one of us might not have experienced this at all ever. So just having trust and faith in each other and leaning on our experiences is extremely important. And I feel like if your crew respects you and you step in, you take a second and you step in and say, I've had this experience before, let me help. They tend to listen and value that, because the truth of the matter is we walk into things all the time that are brand new to us. That's the exciting part of the job, but it's the scary part of the job. But having that crew with you to lean on each other, and say, hey, I've seen this before, hold up, you know if as long as they trust you, trust is everything.
Especially in this job.
My capability, I had like the best conversation with a lieutenant a while back. I was getting ready to leave his station. He's like, look, he's like, I want to tell you something. This sounds terrible. And he's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I have to tell you this. He's like, when they told me I was going to get you as a rookie, I was mad. He's like, I was mad. I had another female already and on my crew. And I told him, like, hey, what happens if I get two female pipemen on my crew? And he's like, they're not gonna be able to pull my ass out. They're not gonna be able to do this job. He's like, I'm crippled. You're crippling my truck. He's like, today I'm gonna tell you I was so wrong. He's like, you have, like, all the training we've done, you showed up, and I'm totally not trying to brag on myself. I hate the idea of that.
No, it's okay. You know what? I think it's okay. I'm totally cool that when people do something well or they do something that they're proud of, it's not bad to brag on yourself. You accomplished something. What's so bad about being proud of something that you accomplished?
Yeah.
Brag about it. Fuck it.
It made my heart happy. He's like, you don't know when you start working with somebody if you're going to really be able to trust them. He's like, but everything that we've done in training with you and her, I'd rather have the two of you. I'd rather have three people like you on or her on the truck together than some of these other yahoos. he's like, because I trust that you won't give up. He's like, y'all have both shown me that you will never give up. And you know what? There might be things that you're physically not capable of doing and that guy can do, but I know when it comes down to it, you're not gonna leave me. You'll die trying to pull me out of a fire. And that killed me. I had to work really hard not to cry. Like, I was like, this is the most messed up and awesome compliment. Hey, I thought you were gonna. I thought I was gonna die. As soon as I tried to put up a fight to keep you out of here. But now that you're leaving, by the way, I'd be happy to be in the shit with you. That
I think any rookie hearing that would have that same type of reaction. To be honest with you, if I was told that, it would be really hard for me to hold back emotion, because that's one of the, being told that somebody trusts you with their life, especially your brother or sister, and especially a mentor like a lieutenant, it definitely means something. It means something. And I think it means something to anybody. The idea that he had because you were female maybe made it a little bit more of something, but I think anybody being told that, any rookie, it would have meant the world to them. So I agree with him. I truly think I would fight for you to be on my crew if that was an option. There's few, I wouldn't say few. There's guys that I do not mind working with because I trust them. There's guys that I haven't worked with enough to know whether or not. But I trust that everybody there is going to do everything in their power to do what they need to do. But being told specifically like you were, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal, especially from somebody that had the mindset that he had prior. You know, you helped him set the bar for other female firefighters that come and be rookies with him. That's a good thing. That's a great thing, Virginia. Seriously. That's huge. You have definitely made an impact on our department, and in a very good way. You have shown how firefighters need to be. Not just female firefighters, but firefighters. You have shown how firefighters need to handle themselves on the job, how to be a good rookie, how to be open-minded, how to train. And that's a good thing as a rookie, not even just as a female. No, as a rookie, you have definitely, you're the kind of rookies that we like seeing because you guys surpass the bar. And that's really, really, that's awesome. Don't be afraid to brag on yourself on that. That's a good thing. It really is. I've only been there for 10 years. I 11 years now. Holy shit. I still have a lot to learn. I still have a lot to learn. I still have a lot to do. I still want to push myself. But when I see people like you coming in and you have that tenacity and that will to never give up, you have the okay to admit when you fail or when you need help. Like, we need people like that. We don't need the know-it-alls. People coming in thinking they know everything, don't want to listen. We don't need those people. We need people that are willing to learn. And if you do know it all, maybe just shut up because you might learn something else.
I think it's the best piece of advice that a couple of the best pieces of advice I ever got told was if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Absolutely.
Go to a different room.
Absolutely. That goes along the lines with usually the loudest one in the room has nothing to say.
Yeah. And never miss a good opportunity to shut up.
Never miss a good opportunity to shut up. These are a bunch of firefighter sayings. Bunch of them.
Oh, they're so good.
They are very good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start wrapping this up a little bit. But usually when I wrap it up, I usually end it with about 3 questions. The first question is, if you were in my shoes, you're the podcaster, you're the host, but you're interviewing yourself, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
I think you touched on everything that I assumed you were going to ask, and then some more.
Is there anything that you think you would want to share that I didn't really touch on?
Oh, I think you've covered everything. This is a tough job for not just on us but our family. And I listened to your interview with Jason, and you talked a lot about like the mental health and aspects of that, and just I don't know, I'm just thinking about, I've been thinking about like my pinning ceremony, like who would be there, and then you have like so many people that, you know, who I would want to pin me. And it's hard to even think about it. It's like I have had multiple lieutenants that I just adore, and then my son that's been through all of my emotions gracefully and you know, through the tough process of getting hired on and physically adjusting to the shift and stuff. And then I have amazing boyfriend that's been super supportive of everything. Just trying to guess like who do I want to actually like show the most like that appreciation to, and that that's a difficult process, but it just also at the same time is like, man, I'm really blessed. I have a lot of all these awesome people in my life.
That is a blessing.
And
I mean,
that's
you know how they say it's a good problem to have.
yeah.
That's a pretty good problem to have. Personally, if you want my opinion, and I know you're going to make your own decision, but if you want my opinion, that boy down there playing with my boy, he needs to be the one putting it on you. My opinion.
That's a good opinion.
I think he's probably shared more than anybody else,
Oh yeah.
and that means something.
Oh yeah. He's been through the entire process, so I think you're right.
When and we didn't really touch on this. You do have, you were a single mother. How did and I know we're going off a little trail. I said I was going to end it, but real quickly, how do you think your son has adapted to all this change and being in the fire life and everything?
Pretty amazingly, he's grown up in the fire service. His dad is a Houston fireman. He's an amazing, one of the best firemen I know. His granddad his granddad was a fireman. His great granddad was a fireman.
So he has a legacy there.
Oh yeah, he
Mhm.
has a major legacy. So I think it's been awesome to show him that I could do this, to kind of mold his brain, on what he expects, of females in his life, like the expectations that he has. That I think he's adapted really well to. So he does extremely well with the concepts of mom and dad both being firemen.
That's awesome. Yeah, my kids, that's all they've known is being in the fire service. Dad's always been in the fire service. That's just basically all they've known. So it's really hard. I haven't yet met somebody where their kid was old enough to understand the change, the shift. I can't wait until I meet somebody that does, because I'd love to talk to that kid or that person that saw that shift and how it changed. It's hard to really understand how our kids see us because it's all they've known. So when they go and spend time at their friend's house and their dad or mom do something different, they're home every night to have dinner with them, or they always have the weekends off. They never miss a birthday. They never miss a holiday. How does that affect our kids when all of a sudden that changes?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know that too. I think he sees it. He
Mm-hmm.
knows it exists. He knows these situations exist, and he realizes that you can make it work. You can make it work, and you can have a cool birthday even if mom's working on your birthday,
Mm-hmm.
or Christmas, even if we have Christmas the day before or the day after. We can make happiness out of it. He's got a really good. He's very emotionally intelligent, and I think the biggest takeaway that I've seen of him, is he's seen us through. We try not to let him see our pain or weakness, but kids are very perceptive.
Yeah, and that's something that I actually wanted to touch. Krista Lindsay, Lieutenant Tracy Lindsay, and I can say his name because we said his name a million times on the damn podcast. Her perspective when she was younger, and how she told me that even though when Lieutenant went through something hard, she knew without him saying it. It's because she loved him. She was close to him. Like, they can tell.
Yeah,
Even
sure.
when you think you're really good at hiding it,
Oh, you can't hide anything.
you can't hide anything. They know. It's like it's in them. They know when something's wrong. It's really good to hear that your son's doing well and that he's adapted well. And I met him earlier. It was the first time I met him, I think, and he was very respectful. He's a very good boy. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
And getting this kind of close to the end, I want to ask you, is there anything you want to ask me? And it can be anything at all. Anything at all. Anything you want to know about me, if you want to ask advice, if anything, doesn't matter. You can ask me what my favorite color is. I don't care. But is there anything or a certain amount of questions you want to ask me? I'm all ears and I'm an open book.
Did you lean on your crew at all whenever you were going through all the troubles that you were telling me earlier about you were facing? You didn't specify them, but did you lean on your crew at all? And what routes did you take to help yourself? Because there's a lot of routes out there, but people are afraid to ask what worked. What things that helped keep your head above water. I'm an open book if somebody asks me, but I think there's a lot of people that are still growing into that idea of talking about mental health and what helped you specifically get through your dark times.
So it was pretty recent. It was late last year when I started, something happened, and everything that I was stressed or depressed over kind of came to a front, and it got really, really bad. Like, really bad. It got to a point where I didn't necessarily want to kill myself, but I just wanted to disappear. I wanted to be gone. I wanted any and all issues that I have created for other people, all my issues, I just wanted them to go away. And the only way I can think of doing that is to just disappear and just be gone. Like I said, not necessarily wanting to hurt myself. I didn't want to hurt myself. It's hard to explain. I just didn't want to I just didn't want to deal. I didn't want to be around. I just wanted to be gone. If I was gone, it would solve everything, right? This was the mindset I had. And it got pretty bad. And the first person I leaned on, really, really leaned on, was a good friend of mine. And we've known each other since we were 14 years old, and we're still friends. Like, he's my brother. And I called him and I was crying, and I was in a bad spot. I was in a bad place. I didn't know if I was going to go back home. Melinda and I were having, we were fighting because I did something stupid. I didn't cheat or anything. I neglected her feelings in a really bad way. And when I did that, and then we started talking, and then I just started realizing that I wasn't able to separate a lot of things on how I am at the job and how I conduct myself at home. And there has to be a little bit of a separation there. I wasn't able to do it. I reacted to things before thinking them through because I'm so used to reacting to training. Our training, we see a situation, we react to mitigate that situation. We hear something, we say something right away, sometimes without thinking, because if we don't say something, somebody, or if we can get hurt. Well, it doesn't work that way in a relationship. In a relationship, you need to shut up sometimes, evaluate what's being said, evaluate what you said, and realize that, it doesn't work that way. Well, it got really bad, and I talked to him. I'm crying. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to do. He calmed me down. I came back home, and I kind of just went into this silent depression. And the guys at work started noticing it because I wasn't as talkative. I wasn't as jokeful. And it wasn't until one of the crew members actually came up to me and he said, "Hey man, let me talk to you for a second." Okay. "Hey man, I noticed something about you. You're not really you right now." And as soon as he said that, I broke down. I started fucking crying. This is at work. I started crying, and I kind of let him know what was going on and stuff. And he's just like, "Well, hey man, we're here for you, blah, blah." And I was just like, "It's not you guys. It's not that I don't like hanging out with you guys. It's not that I don't like talking to you guys. It's just I'm in the bad spot right now. I'm not right now. I'm not right in the head." And then at that point, I took the step because I'm a peer supporter, right? I took the training. I'm a peer supporter in our department, and it it was kind of hard because I didn't want to not show and not tell people about it because but then if I didn't, why am I asking other people to? So I didn't want to be a hypocrite. So what I ended up doing is I called the IAFF Center of Excellence, and I was supposed to go, but then the whole house thing happened. The custody battle with my daughter, having to move back in. We just bought an RV. My wife lost her job. I was just like, I could not catch a break. And but when I called the IAFF, they got me in touch with somebody, and he helped a lot. I was supposed to go. He wanted me to go. He thought I needed to go. I couldn't because of the custody stuff that's going on. And so I was saying, I wanted to go. I needed to go, but it was, I don't know if I still need to go. I probably do, but I am getting help now. I'm seeing somebody and I'm getting treated. I'm taking medicine to help with anxiety and the depression. And, but I still have a lot to work on, a lot to do. And part of me starting to share that with everybody is because if I'm wanting to be part of that voice that's saying it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to ask for help, I need to admit that I need help. And so that's part of how I am dealing with it now. Going back to your question, how did I deal with the stresses and how am I dealing with it now? Is at first it was a friend, then it was colleagues noticing that there was something wrong, and then it was me taking the steps to going and getting treatment, and then continuing that process. So it took a lot for me to get to where I'm at now. It took me realizing something was wrong. It took somebody outside that I had no control over just being aware of my feelings, even though I didn't express them. And then it took me taking the steps to actively searching and getting the help. It wasn't just going to come to me. People would come to me and talk, but me getting the help and talking to a psychologist or talking to a therapist, getting medicine to help, I needed to personally take those steps. Those things aren't going to come to me. They're not going to just come to you. You need to reach out and get them. So
Exactly.
it took a while for me to get to that point. But yeah, to answer that question, that's exactly what is going on and how I dealt with it. And I'm actually kind of glad you brought it up because we dived into it a little bit in my previous podcast with Jason, and it we didn't really get real deep into it, but um, yeah, people need to know that it's okay to ask for help. The fact that you're sharing your story and what you went through and how bad you had it is actually um, that's I truly believe is going to help other people reach out. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more it's just every day. And the truth is, it is every day for a lot of people, whether we recognize it or not. And the way that people have it, the more often we talk about it, the more normalized, the better that I feel like people approach it or react to it. People react to it poorly if it's not something that is normal to them. It's something that's a taboo. So we're really bad. There's still, I think it's getting better, but there's pockets in the fire department that somebody says they're struggling, they're like, oh, it's this little bitch or his little pussy, he's just trying to get out of work.
Or he's acting this way and just using it as an excuse.
Yeah. But then that guy kills himself, and then a day later we're asking, why didn't he cry out for help? So
Yeah, and that was something we were talking about before, is when you have that mentality of these people that are looking for help and searching for help, but then they overhear a conversation, or they're with the guys and the guys are just ragging on people that can't hack it, or ragging on guys that can't deal with a call or something like that, and they're just calling them pussies and everything. How the fuck do you expect somebody to come out and say they need help and talk to somebody when their peers are dogging the other people that have gone out for help and stuff like that? Like, how do you do that? How and then when something does happen, and you do hear it, when something does happen, well, why didn't he reach out for help? Well, why didn't he get help? I would have talked to him. Yeah, you would have, but he heard you say something really fucked off one day, and you killed that opportunity without even knowing it, because you're ignorant to the fact that some people don't like sharing it, and then when they hear that shit, they're becoming less likely to want to share it. I'm not saying don't express your feelings, because if you really do feel that way, I'm not going to tell you not to express your feelings. If that's how you truly honestly feel, that every person should just nut up or shut up, mental health, whatever, like, if that's how you really honestly in your heart of hearts feel, by all means express your feelings. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with expressing your feelings. But don't be fucking surprised when people don't want to come and talk to you and something bad happens later on.
You're right.
So, but yeah, now we got all deep and dark. Jeez.
Came out of this hole.
Yeah. To close this all out, first I want to say thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being patient with me. And thanks for really sharing your story. You really put yourself out there and made yourself vulnerable. And you already said you're totally okay with sharing all this, and that is awesome. Shared your experiences getting into the job, being a female, going through the mental stresses and psychological stresses, being a single mom. You shared a lot, and I think your story is going to help other people, not just women, but other people, show that when you have the tenacity and you have the want and the will, you can get it done. And again, I'm not trying to make your head big or compliment you to the point where, I mean, we both still have a lot to learn. We both still can grow a bunch, but you definitely proven yourself, at least to me, as a firefighter, as a friend, and as a human being. You're somebody I can totally see myself trusting everything I got, my family, myself, and I want to say thank you for that.
That means a lot, man. That means a lot coming from you.
I ask everybody this at the end of the podcast, because what makes us fire is it's a double-edged sword. So it can be taken as, people who are listening, this is what makes us fire. But it could also be a question. And so I'm asking you, what do you think it is that gets all these different backgrounds, personalities, belief systems, morals, ideas, all these different things, and they all, for somehow, some way, got into this life? What do you think it is? What do you think that is that made us fire?
I think the common thread amongst everyone is just being overly ambitious to wanting to change the world for a little bit for the better, and make our own little world a little better. Hey, it sounds every concept that I have, every way I have to answer this sounds cliche, but sometimes cliches are just true. It's people that are seeking like-minded people. They just want to make the world a little bit better. You know, I know that sounds cliche, but it's
Even with all the assholes and
there's the biggest. There's some massive jerks in the department, but in every department that you go to, but none of them like. I don't know any of them that wouldn't help you if you asked for help. I don't know any of them, and the ones that do, those are the ones that we push out. Those are the ones that don't cut it. Those are the ones that are gonna get they're gonna get kicked. They're gonna get kicked out one way or the other. They're not gonna make it with us. You know, the people that stay there, and there's some doozies, but like no matter how big of jerks they are, like I feel like they would do whatever they could to help. They would sacrifice anything to help each other, you know, to help somebody that they don't know. So that's the common trait amongst all of us.
I think that's a damn good answer. I guess my question was more like, how did that trait get instilled in all of us some way, somehow, even though we're all different? That's really hard, right?
Idea.
That's a really hard question.
I don't know. Like we all have our own experiences. That's right. The cool thing about this talking to people. I'm excited to listen to some of my other coworkers' podcasts. Their versions to hear where they came from, where that mentality came from them. But I think it gets instilled different ways. You know. But you know, some people they were neglected of that. They missed that in their life, or some people had an abundance of it. Everybody's background's different, but we all wound up in the same spot, and that's awesome.
And I just think it's weird how we ended up in the same spot. Like, there's no real answer I have yet, but I'm okay with that because that just means I'll continue looking for it, and this podcast can go on for a really long time. Okay. Anyway, Virginia, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You're fucking amazing. You're awesome. Thank you. What makes us fire, guys? There's Virginia. Virginia, wave bye.
Hi, guys.
You guys stay safe out there. Peace. All right, What Makes Us Fire Family, that was Virginia. I want to thank her again for coming on and sharing her story and basically just being a badass firefighter. Y'all, please get out there, share the podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Of course, TikTok. And if you guys ever need anything, you know you can email me at whatmakesusfire@yahoo.com. I want to say thank you for listening. You all are amazing. Stay safe out there. Have fun. Peace.